Great. Thank you very much, Kim. Thank you for inviting us for this session. And our session today is on insider threats. First of all, I'm sure everyone's tired of talking about SolarWinds attack. We're not going to focus on the SolarWinds attack. What we're going to focus on is what we've learned from the SolarWinds attack and the insider threat landscape. So let's focus on the lessons we've learned and how to quickly identify and mitigate these threats. Everyone realizes the insider threats are on the rise. Okay, so first let's define what is an insider threat. An insider threat or an insider attack is an instance in which someone with legitimate credentials into your business's networks and assets uses their privileged access to cause harm to the company. These data breaches can include sabotage, theft, espionage, fraud, and competitive advantage. It is a security threat within the organization. This doesn't necessarily mean the actor is still a current employee. It could be a former employee or a consultant. How did the threat get inside? Could it have originated externally? You also need visibility in the reconnaissance stage of how things are entering your network. That's the very first stage. And also probably the most important stage is as data is leaving your network and all of the stages in between. So the answer to all of this is yes, they can originate within an organization. So how do you identify threats with simple logs from individual point products? We all have many security tools in our environment. They all produce many logs. The challenge is to go and identify the critical threads out of those millions of logs that we receive every day, right? Because each individual event may not even seem malicious from those logs. Let's take a look at a couple of examples of threats that may have gone undetected, but are critical and anomalous. I was recently doing a POC review for a large bank in Indonesia, and we identified there were quite a few applications that were using the username and passwords in the clear, and we identified those. Now, why is that a threat? Because people know, right, is that people use the same username or possibly the same password in many other locations. We saw another event. This was an interesting one, where an anomalous event happened on a server where the time was changed. So the bad actor changed the timer, the time of the server about back to 1 year. And then they went ahead and disabled things like the IP tables and ran their malicious commands. And then they changed the time back, fast forwarded to today. Why is that? Because we know most analysts are looking for security events that happened in the last few days, not from a year ago. So let's see what other people are saying. Forrester expects internal incidents to cause a third of the breaches this year, an 8% increase compared to 2020. A lot of this is because of the fact that threat landscape has changed dramatically. People are working from home now. There's not too many people in the office anymore, right? The traditional approach of protecting the perimeter with firewalls is gone. Threats can enter the environment from anywhere. Organized, skilled, and well-funded attackers exist. They will work aggressively looking for weakness to exploit if you become their target. You can't possibly uncover everything, even with the best security tools. Why do organizations have such a difficult time identifying and stopping these insider threats? Our customers and partners tell us they think 90% of the threats go undetected because they do not have full visibility, and that is what they realize after working with us. Let's ask a question. Why is it so hard to find these threats even when 90% of the insider threats go undetected? Do you feel you have too many tools and not enough people? Logs, visibility, and lack of correlation from millions of events that you receive. You have multiple tools, multiple teams trying to piece together the chain of events. A lot of folks today have a SIM. It brings in a lot of logs, but you have to manually go look for logs for threats. This can take a while. This is all about time. Time is critical to identify threats and mitigate them. If we historically, just from looking at logs, it takes us many times days and days to identify a critical threat that's happening in your network. It may be too late. Data has already exfiltrated. You need to find these critical security events in real time. So threat hunting has become an essential element to look for security events. Threat hunting is the practice of proactively searching for threats that are hiding in an organization's environment. Is it people, tools, or the process? Of course, it's not the people. There are many smart people, but they are overwhelmed with the number of tools and data. It is about the transition from multiple tools to a platform. Threat hunting is hard to do when you have 5 guys yelling across the room, looking at individual point products and finding individual threats. A single UI will give you correlated visibility. With a platform approach, it is like having a security analyst 24/7 on your staff to automatically identify threats and anomalies. So are logs enough? Just bringing in logs, is it enough? I'm going to change this into a little bit of, a lot of people have been talking about XDR recently. What is XDR? XDR is the premises to integrating with all tools and data in an enterprise environment and tying it all together. Visibility to SaaS applications, Office 365, Google Suite, Amazon, Azure, AWS, network traffic, logs, endpoints, and users is not only important, but from a single UI where the correlation is done for you between these events and the critical threats are identified from the series of events. You need visibility to lateral movement. Again, individual events may not pose a threat, but a chain of events from the suspect will identify the critical threat. Here you can see we have a concept of connecting the dots. You want to connect the dots from all of these different data sources and identify a critical threat that's happening in your network. I want to focus a little bit now on 4 key components to correlating and stopping a complex attack. We're also going to talk about stopping, not just finding. The first and foremost is to collect data from your entire environment. As I talked about, you collect data from SaaS applications, network traffic, user logs, everywhere. If you don't have the data, how can you look? How can you go threat hunting? Once you collect the data, you want to normalize this data, and then you can also do enrichment to the data by adding things like reputation, geolocation. Now that I have all of the data normalized and it looks the same, I've got many different security tools that are looking for security threats in that data set. I want to look for malware in files. I want to look for anomalies in my network. I want to look for anomalies for hosts. I want to look for anomalies for users, right? I also want to look for exploits. These are various different tools that will allow me to look for threats in the data that I collected. I can also investigate by doing some threat hunting. So I want to manually go look for things that may be specific to my environment. Now that I found a threat or an anomaly, either by internal detections or by investigating, I want to take a response. I want to immediately take a response. I found a threat in my network. I want to go to my firewall and block that traffic immediately. I want to go disable that user that's been compromised. I may want to go to the endpoint and contain that user. So the 4 key components to correlating and stopping a complex attack is collecting the data, detecting, investigating, and then taking an action. All of this you're able to do within just a couple of clicks by a single analyst versus a team that's doing it that's looking for days. What I want to now show you is a demonstration of how to do this. So the focus of this session is threat hunting, looking for things in your network. And the example we'll use is, I woke up in the morning, I realized that there was a major exploit or a threat with SolarWinds. How many servers do I have in my network that have SolarWinds installed on it? Okay, and that's what I want to go look for. But before I do that, I want to show you the power of the platform here. The power of the platform, first and foremost, is I'm going to collect data from everywhere in my entire environment. And then I've got these various different tools that are going to look for security threats. As well as I can go in there and do some threat hunting. This is my traditional SIM tool that allows me to go do threat hunting, as well as I've got this threat hunting library that are looking for some common things. And then I can take a response action and I can automate that. So I can build a rule that says, look for ransomware in my network. If I find it, I want you to automatically go to the firewall and take a response action and block it. Maybe I want to create a custom security event on my dashboard or disable the user. So this, I'm allowing you to automatically look for things in your environment and take an action on it. The dashboard is showing you the most critical security events that are happening in your network and which security events I need to go take an action on first. One of the things we do is we'll go ahead and categorize each one of the security events to the cybersecurity kill chain. One is to give you protection across the entire kill chain. Second is to allow you to see which threat I should go take an action on first. Here, this is data leaving my network. I need to go take an action on that data first. Okay, so let's focus back into our in looking for insider threat. So the example I gave is, I want to go look in my asset analytics page. Here, I've got all of my assets that have been identified in my network. I want to go look for servers that have the SolarWinds it's installed on it. So here, I'll go ahead and type in SolarWinds. It's going to go through all of my assets and come back with servers that have SolarWinds on it. Here's one of them. Okay, so I've identified, yep, it's got an application, Orion 2019 SolarWinds. Okay, I've got all of the asset details here of the first time I saw it, where it is, what type of a server it is, and so on and so forth. You can even see the OS was on Windows on it. As I scroll down, I can see there's quite a few security events that have happened for this asset. Okay, I'm going to bring this down to the last 24 hours to get a little bit more visibility on some of the security events here. Okay, so what I want to see is what's going on with this asset, and I want to make it visually pleasing. So I'm going to go into this panoramic view. The panoramic view, as you can see here, is showing me all critical security events that are related to that asset in the middle. Let's take a look at this first one here. This asset that's external to me signed in at or logged in at an anomalous time. He also logged in from an anomalous location. You could have got this event from your existing UBA, but that single event may not have triggered you to say, yeah, that's something critical. Okay, it may have, it's an event. But I got that because I've got user behavioral analytics detection, as well as I've got user data that's being ingested into the platform. What I also have here, as I see, is they logged into an Azure Active Directory server and created themselves a user. How do I know that? Because I have the ability to go into this actual event. So I can scroll down, look at that particular event, and I can look at all of the things that were modified. So I'm giving you complete visibility on exactly what they did. They created an account and they logged in and they did their thing. So great. That's an event we received because we have visibility to SaaS applications. In this case, Azure Active Directory is sending data to us. You could have got that event also from Azure Active Directory individually, but again, it may not have seemed anomalous because it's just someone logged in and created an event. Uh, let's scroll down a little bit here. Here you can see I've got lateral movement. This guy is now talking to this particular guy, and what are some of the events there? Looks like they access this asset, this server, for the very first time, because I've got an event that says user asset access anomaly. This came from my network visibility. My network told me that this to this guy. What I also saw that there was a brute force attack to here. They successfully logged in and modified the registry and created a reverse tunnel. How do I know that? Because this is a Windows server, and I have access to all of the Windows logs there. So all those Windows events are being sent to this platform also. Here's the most critical one. I've got an external connection now to a server that has a reputation of an emerging threat. How did I get that information? As I explained earlier, as you're bringing data into the platform, you want to enrich it. So we fed it to say this particular IP address has a reputation of an emerging threat. Okay, that's my threat intelligence feed that's coming in every hour. That's updating all of that information. I can go ahead and click on that and get a little bit more information. So again, here are my events. I'll click on more information here. So as I scroll down, I'm able to identify that, yep, that's the destination. It is an emerging threat. And I want to know what that emerging threat is. Oh, it's sunburst. Okay, so this is now allowing me to see, okay, now I've got an external threat, a connection to a server that has a reputation of a threat, an emerging threat, right? So here I've now validated based on many different points that this is a critical event. I can immediately, first of all, take an action and say, I want to go to the firewall and I want to block that traffic. So to that 54 address, for the next 5 hours, I'm going to go ahead and block that traffic. I can also disable the user, and I can even contain the host or even run a custom script. As well as I'll go ahead and generate a trouble ticket while I'm at it from here. So I'll go ahead and send an email that'll open up a trouble ticket. So as you can see, I was able to identify a critical security event from many different sources of data, many different types of tools that are looking for security threats. Within a few clicks, within a few minutes, identified it, and I was able to even take an action directly from the platform by blocking a rule on a firewall. So I hope this ties into the presentation that I showed you, that having data all in a single platform, having tools that are looking at that common data set, identifying a critical threat or an anomalous threat, and taking an immediate action. Thank you very much for your time. Open to take some questions. Otherwise, I'll hand it back over to Kim. So there's one question that says, does this tool generate false positives? There, 2/3 of the detections in the platform are static detections. There's signatures that are written, detections that are written to look for things. 1/3 of it is looking for anomalous activities. By definition, with machine learning and AI, it would not be a false positive. It would still be an anomaly because that traffic was never seen before, that event was never seen before. But if you feel that it is something that's normal in my network, you can go ahead and whitelist it. An example of that would be is I identified through machine learning that this particular host is behaving like a scanner. Well, that happens to be my scanner, and I can identify that very, very quickly. Any other questions? Yep, thank you.